Channel. I'm Jess. In case you're new here, I do informative videos, but I have something exciting to tell you. Starting a series, and this is the first episode of Mystery and Makeup. Today's episode, we're going to talk about Louis Otieno. If you do not know him, Louis is a very famous former news anchor. When he was 20 years old, Louis used to work at the Post Bank 26 years ago. Post Bank had a show called Post Bank Premium Bonds. Louis so much wanted to work as a host in that show. Many times he tried to tell his managers that he wanted to be a host over there. He was told to follow protocol. Long story short, he got the gig. It used to be aired in KBC just after prime time. This is when he gained his fame. So many stations, so many people noticed him. Decided, because of his articulation and his investigative journalism skills, that's how he gained his fame. And he earned a 6-figure salary. That's when the problem started. From there on, into addiction, alcoholism, addiction. That's when all his problems now began, that come with fame. So now the people around him all claim that fame was getting into his head at this time, looking down at everyone, including his editors and people around him. Said that is an occupational hazard because he's now famous and is dealing with high-end political interviews, so not everyone would like him. His mom, Elizabeth Omolo, worked with KBC and Radio Ramogi at that time, exhausted all her resources, taking care of Louis' medical bills and all those things with his high life. That's when the story becomes interesting. We introduce Karine Chepchumba. This time, Karine was 26 years old, living in the same apartment block with Louis, who worked with Kenya Power as a telecommunications engineer. Karine was living upstairs with a strict family. It is allegedly said Karine was the one financing the whole situation, the whole relationship. Karine's family says that after they met with Louis, her character completely changed. Started borrowing large sums of money, even going to the extent of stealing from her dad just to help Louis. Thereafter, Karine's family decided that this is out of character, and they sat her down on a Saturday evening just to get to know what is the problem, why is the character changing, and all these things. That's when she went ahead and opened up to the dad. Remember, at this point, she even went and moved out from her apartment, went to live at Santonia, if I pronounce it right, in Kilimani. Security at the gate claimed that she was dropped by the brother Emmanuel on a Saturday evening, and she sounded very happy, very jolly. The brother didn't go in. She didn't come out of the house normally to go to work on Monday. The mom and the brother kept on calling her all this while. She's not picking up the phone. They got worried. Mom and the brother Emmanuel went to her apartment to see what was happening. This is where it's interesting. Emmanuel goes up, rings the bell, no answer. Goes ahead, finds the door open, TV is off, curtains are drawn, and he goes directly into the sister's bedroom, and the door is slightly open. He goes inside, sees the sister face down on her bed. This is where it gets weird. He rushes outside. On his way out, he notices 2 glasses of water, pills next to the sister. Funny enough, the laptop was playing music. This is where it just raises eyebrows, literally. So how come this is Tuesday morning, February 12th, 2012, from Saturday, how come the laptop is still on and the music is playing? That's when the dad comes in and sees this crime scene as a foul play, and the pathologist say that it was coming from the thumbprints on her neck. Now Louis is the first suspect. Police from Kilimani police station, the DCI, They call him in, asking him if he knows anything that he needs to come in. So Louis obviously was he says that he was in Magadi. So clearly he was cleared. He had an alibi. The security guys, they go ahead and say they haven't seen Louis for quite a while. Pathologists go ahead and say from the evidence they got, Karine was in a comfortable place. Whoever Karine was familiar to her, but there were signs of defense on her arm. There were signs of assault as well. When Louis clears himself by saying that he's willing to cooperate with the police, he's willing to do everything, even involving a DNA test. Says the DNA test, the experience was so traumatizing, quote unquote, it strips you of your dignity. And now everything just went downhill for him. I feel like the police at this point didn't do as much as they should have done, because they should have taken samples from the glasses that were there, the saliva samples, to just narrow down who the killer was. Before Karine died, they went to the police station, took a statement, took restraining orders. In the crime scene later, it comes out that Karine wrote a suicide note and it was torn in pieces inside her dustbin. 2 weeks after Karine's death, the dad shows up and says that Karine wrote him a letter apologizing and saying how she'll change her ways. At this point, Louis has lost all hope. He got a pancreatic infection that affected his ears. He got to do an interview, says that he needs medical help. He can't walk, he can't even hear. Kenyans came through for him, and now as you're speaking, he can hear. Fast forward to now, where is Louis Otieno? Now everything apparently is doing well for him. He even did a video. He's even planning on doing a new show called The Second Act. He talks about current affairs, BBI. We're happy that he's going back to the news. We're hoping that everything will work out fine for him. To the conclusion of Karine and the rise and fall of Louis, no one was actually arrested, and the DPP says that the case is open to public request. That is the case of Louis Otieno, and we can't wait to see the show. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the story as you get ready with me. Until next time, bye.